In today's program, we have Eric Lundgaard. He's a valuable member of our club. He's been a member now, how many? 4 years now, Eric? 5 years? And he's going to speak with us about consciousness today. Without further ado, please welcome Eric Lundgaard.
Waiting for my picture to be taken here. So, there you go, George. I always ask for comments and questions. Mark Garrity is here again because he offered me some wonderful questions the last time I gave this presentation. He suggested I slow down and start from the beginning, and that would take me probably 2 or 3 hours to give that talk, so I'm going to get to this question and answer session pretty quickly. When I talk about consciousness, that's generally a term used by other people in the context of divinity or God. That is what I'm talking about we are. When I talk about the fact that we all have souls, and there are 5 different kinds of souls. Let me see if I can move this forward. It's not working.
Spacebar.
So what's the best way for me to advance this?
You might have to end the slideshow and restart it.
How about that? Let me try this. There we go. Okay, I figured it out. One of the things I realized, I went through a divorce back in 1991, and that was a very traumatic event for me and my family. And I realized there was something missing in my understanding of humanity. I wanted to create an understanding inside of myself that would help me get along with people better. And this is where it gets very interesting. I studied A Course in Miracles, and the answer always is the same. There's nothing wrong with the world. So to find peace within myself, I had to go within myself to accept the world as it was. Now, I've talked to a number of you today, and there was an election last night. I know Mark's happy with the election. There's probably other people that are happy with the election too. Mark is a very interesting individual, and he gives his truth pretty readily, which is why I really like him. When we give our truth to each other readily, then we don't hesitate and withhold information. And that part of the reality is here to first know yourself. If you don't really understand yourself, and that's primarily the work that I'm offering people, is a way for us to understand ourselves better, then I can't tell that somebody out there isn't doing something that emotionally I receive as a problem. People are not creating problems for me anymore. What's happening is that I get to decide how to accept and receive the information that flows to me that used to appear as a problem. Even somebody being angry at me. I'm just going, well, whatever's happening on them, it's different today than it was yesterday. They're not happy with me. So let me try to explain a little bit about some of the rays of consciousness and start off with the idea that old theosophy has 7 rays of consciousness in it. My version of theosophy, I call AquarianTheosophy, has only 6 rays of consciousness, and there is one primary ray that actually is a ray of creation. When we talk about God being able to create, that is what the first ray of consciousness is. When I was in India 4 times, I watched a divine being by the name of Satya Sai Baba who could wave his hand in the air, and sometimes he'd hand vibhuti to people, sometimes a ring would show up. It showed up right about here underneath his hand, and he would grab it and hand it to somebody. So I have been through very dramatic experiences in my life that gave me a large number of questions that I kept wanting to answer. Fortunately, I had time after I got off city council in 1997 to follow up on that. And I realized that there was something missing in my understanding. As I started studying all the religions of the world, I ran into Buddhism primarily, where the Buddha was happier than his followers. He was happy all the time. So this is why I call Bob Buddha Bob, because the answer came through that Buddha Bob is the fourth ray of consciousness. He is not the second ray of consciousness, which I am. The second ray of consciousness is a more troubling and more circumspect sort of information that's flowing to me in the way of, yeah, go ahead and do that. That's a good idea. My soul's telling me to do that. And then as soon as I do it, the soul's going, I don't know if I would have done that. You know, and I'm sure you've all had that feeling, because the reaction of the person that you did it with was like that. Usually their second ray consciousness too, and you're going, well, we are needing to communicate here. We are needing to tell each other what's happening. That's why I'm saying I love Mark and Bob both will always tell me their truth. Duncan is like that too. He's the fourth ray of consciousness also. That ray of consciousness hand is that way too. They don't get so much information that's so troubling. And it's hard for me to explain, but I know it's true because I love to be around them. They also give a more refined reality. When I watch Duncan on City Council, I'm listening for what he's talking about, and in about 2 or 3 sentences he goes through all the important points, and he simplifies reality so quickly. I go, well, why wouldn't everybody agree with Duncan? Because he's giving the right answer in a very simple form. My reality of consciousness exists in 72 pages. It's never been written in a simpler form than that. Theosophists have added thousands and thousands of pages to the reality and all kinds of terms and names and understandings that really, from my point of view, don't add anything. Like Einstein said long ago, he says, you need to simplify reality in order to pass it on to other human beings. And he was a great simplifier of reality so that we could even begin to understand and get a better idea. So the understanding of the rays of consciousness was created long ago with Blavatsky in England, late 1800s or mid 1800s. There is something called a soul, personality, and mind ray of consciousness. Those terms came about through Theosophy. And there is the age of the soul that affects a human being in a very dramatic way, especially the second ray of consciousness. So I think I'm going to stop for a second and offer a point of view that's unique. The Pope is one of the oldest souls I know of, and he's fourth ray consciousness. When you see the love that soul carries with his ideas, that I'm not here mostly for the theological aspects of the Catholic Church. I'm here to share love with humanity. That's what I keep hearing from him. That's that old fourth ray soul. Ratzinger, right before him, was troubled by everything that was happening. And I think he left. He's the first person that I know of to ever retire or quit being the Pope of the Catholic Church. So the second, third, fourth, sixth, and seventh rays of consciousness create who you are. And now let me go to one of my favorite. This is the old Theosophical logo. Obviously something I didn't want to continue. So I took another star and I created the first, second, third, fourth, sixth, and seventh. Usually people look at that and they go, Eric, it's missing the fifth. And I said, yeah, it's supposed to be. The fifth ray of consciousness really never existed. So I created a new version of it, and that's the logo I have that goes with it. It's very similar to the past one. But of course, especially right now, I don't really think I need a swastika at the top of my logo. So that always causes people a lot of grief. So then I put it together in a form that I presented in other conferences. But I want to focus on these two individuals since we just had an election with both of them. And it's important that I spend a little time with this fine lady here who's second ray consciousness, like most of humanity. About half of humanity is like her, but not the old soul that she is. Her age of soul is the same as mine. And I'm going to even say the number, and then I'm going to give you a little history. We are 10 million years old as souls. Now I know that's impossible because archaeologists will tell you it's only 2 million years humanity has been here. We were created 12 million years ago. That's the soul of the Pope. He's that old. He's incredibly old as a soul. You'll get his personality reality. This guy right here is about 2 million years old as a soul. He's more intense with his reality because he has more of something I call karma. Karma is what gets us into relationship. And Donald Trump is desiring relationship. I think he's on his third wife at this point in time. And I'm mostly talking about intimate relationships as how we cure our souls. Hillary will go away pretty quickly because she's not running for office anymore, but I always liked listening to her because she made sense to me. So that's just an old soul to an old soul perspective. This guy would say things like, I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. And he'd look at us like, okay. And there were people out there that loved to hear that. To me, when someone says something like that, I'm going, okay, great, how are you going to do that? That's the next question that comes from my soul, and it's our souls that are asking those questions. Hillary says, anyone who says that racial discrimination is no longer a problem in American elections must be not paying attention unless the hole opened by the Supreme Court is fixed and blah, blah, blah. Well, obviously it's not going to be. I mean, Donald Trump will probably give us 3 new justices, and we'll have an extremely conservative Supreme Court. But all of that stuff that she says to me is logical and has references and understanding. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters. Okay, there's Donald Trump again. And I go, well, okay, what did you intend to portray by that? What he is the sixth ray of consciousness. And I am so happy that Mark is here because Mark is the sixth ray of consciousness too. Marcy Gibson is also the sixth ray of consciousness. The way this works is, I'm going to back it up so we go back to where this all got started. That soul of Donald Trump is the sixth ray, and so is Mark, since he's in the room. His personality ray is the second ray of consciousness. Donald Trump's is the fourth ray, so it does not influence his soul as heavily as Mark's second ray of consciousness. The second ray of consciousness is very complex, so Mark, for the most part, looks and talks like we do. He communicates with his second ray understanding. The fourth ray is simpler and doesn't affect Donald Trump's soul so heavily, so when he gets all bright red and starts talking, I can't wait till he's on TV doing that again. And the mind ray portrays a little bit of that too. Donald Trump's mind ray is the second ray of consciousness. So every once in a while he does this. He holds onto the lectern and he goes, okay, I'm going to be calm and collected. And I'm going to move on. Thank you. I can finish this pretty easily. The second ray is half of the world. So the reality that exists is one of a logical structure with context. When somebody talks with the second ray of consciousness, they try to figure out what the context works for. In this group here, I'm knowing what everybody is as they walk in the room, and I'm going, this is a great group of people to talk to because you're all friendly and easy to hear what I'm saying. You're not in that range of consciousness at the second ray that's troubled by what I'm saying. Plus you're all friends, you're part of my Rotary Club, that helps too. And the whole point of what I'm doing at this point in time is we're just all different. The wonderful part about Donald Trump is that he will show us every day when he's talking to us that he doesn't speak our language for the most part. He's going to speak a different kind of language, but remember, all you're getting is the sixth ray soul that he is, unencumbered by what Mark Garrity has in the second ray of consciousness that makes him appear more like us. So the biggest part of the spiritual process that I was working on was acceptance of another person's point of view. We are doing better as we learn to get along with each other. I'm not saying you have to walk away with their belief system. Nobody has to leave here today with my belief system. What I'm saying is that we need to be able to sit and look with our eyes at each other and enjoy conversations with our hearts too. That's something that's missing in the midst of the cell phone era, the smartphone era. We're texting each other. Kids, I didn't put the picture in there, but there's 5 kids walking together and they're all they're all texting each other instead of looking at each other and talking to each other. That is not human. That's missing the empathy that's developed by us looking at each other in the eyes and the face. I can tell if you're interested. I can tell if you're uptight. I can tell if you even get angry at me. When children learn texting at 5 years old and they start communicating that way, they don't do this with their eyes with each other. They're not getting the kind of love that we used to get as children. We're playing with our brothers and sisters, and when we hurt them, you know, they start crying and we're going, whoa, I didn't mean to do that, and we carry that into our soul and we go, oh, I don't think I want to do that again, whatever that was, because I don't like to see people cry. I feel it makes me uncomfortable. When you text somebody, you don't have a clue what's happening on the other end of the text. That person could be screaming, crying, or happy. You're not even getting the happiness, the laughter. So this is part of effective communication, which is the next slide, and that's how you do it right there. This is the most fun part of it for me, because most people either this or this. I think, George, you have the star here in your history and your understanding. When I was in India, this was a prominent symbol, and this is Islam and the Ankh from Egypt religion and the peace symbol, and all of consciousness, all humanity gets to have any belief system they want. Everybody gets to carry that. This is one of the things that I kept hearing from consciousness. Yeah, you can try to find a unitary understanding of reality for humanity, but it doesn't exist as a religion. All I've done is describe how God functions on the planet, and I'm going to use that word God. I try to stay away from it. The reason I use consciousness is because God connotes a bearded guy in heaven or some force field over in the Pleiades or something like that. It has so many different connotations that I use the word consciousness, and it is what connects all of us to that divine source and carries us in our own realities. And we have 5 different ways of doing that as the essence of what my reality is here, and all of those symbols are relevant. God supports, our unity earth-based consciousness supports all of those symbols and all of those realities. So we all get to have, I can't even imagine, can you imagine if you decided to change your religion and all of a sudden you got this voice, no, you can't do that. No, that's absurd. Instead it goes, wherever your heart is, whatever is causing you to find happiness in your world, that is what I will support you with. And it automatically happens with consciousness. Are there any questions? Nobody has any questions? Yes, namaste, Mark. Yeah. So it's been fun. I appreciate it. And Larry, I'll give it back to you.
Larry.
Mark, don't go anywhere. Or winning ticket. I'll try to live high enough for you. You're going to pick our winning ticket for us?
I will do that, as long as it's mine. Let's see, it's 6659.
6659.
6659 is right here.
Oh my gosh, Duncan.
In the basket there should be a deck of cards, right?
Does that mean I'm bribing a counselor? Is that what I'm doing?
Well, I get to draw. The big box today, I think it's $56 or so. They have amount of money like that, so they hear my.
That probably was a better time.